Every year there are NFL players that go over the coveted 1,000-yard receiving mark for the first time in their careers. 2018 was no different, as players like Stefon Diggs, George Kittle, and Robert Woods all achieved that mark for the first time in their young careers. 2019 will be no different, as there will be several players that top the 1,000-yard mark for the first of hopefully many times in their careers. In this video, I will be predicting 5 players that I think hit that mark for the first time in 2019. Before I get started though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first player that I think that hits the 1,000-yard mark for the first time in his young career is Seahawks wide receiver Tyler Lockett. Lockett had 9 touchdowns combined in his first 3 seasons before having a great year last year and averaging almost 17 yards per catch and having 10 touchdowns. Prior to last season, most people knew him as just a kick returner, as he was a 2015 first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler that year as well. Lockett is 26 years old and will turn 27 during the season, and I think he will certainly break the 1,000-yard mark for the first time in his career. He was close to achieving this goal last season but fell just short, as he finished with 965 yards. He established himself as Russell Wilson's favorite target, as he led the team in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. Like former teammate Doug Baldwin, I think it takes Lockett to his 5th season to finally get 1,000 yards in a year. I like Lockett's potential in fantasy as well, as we saw what he was capable of last year with nearly 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Moving on to the next player that I think gets 1,000 for the first time in their career is Titans wide receiver Corey Davis. Corey Davis was a disappointment in his rookie season in my opinion, as he had only 375 yards receiving on 34 catches. As the 5th overall pick in the draft, teams rightfully expect more from the players they select that high. However, in 2018, Davis stepped up and led the team in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns with 4. I'd like to see Davis become more consistent in year 3, as he had 891 receiving yards in 2018, but 286 of those, which was over 30% of his total yards, he had in 2 games last season. Davis did not have above 50 receiving yards in any of the team's final 5 games, which will have to change in year 3. I do think it does, however, and I think he becomes more consistent and hits the 1,000-yard mark. This is a contract year for quarterback Marcus Mariota, so I fully expect him to be playing to the best of his ability, which will only translate to his number 1 receiving option in Corey Davis. Davis had a big jump in numbers from year 1 to year 2, as he nearly doubled his receptions and went for well over double his receiving yards that he had in his rookie season. Corey is only 24, and I think he can be as good as he wants to be in this league. I like his potential in 2019 and beyond, and I do think he goes for over 1,000 yards for the first time. Moving on to the next receiver that I think eclipses the 1,000-yard mark is Bucs wide receiver Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin had a solid year in 2018, as he finished with 59 catches, 842 yards, and 7 touchdowns as the second option to Mike Evans. The Bucs have Bruce Arians as their head coach now, and he is regarded as a quarterback whisperer, so the thought here is that he will improve quarterback Jameis Winston. Adding to that, Jameis is in a contract year, and I think we will see the best year of his career statistically. Fantasy football players started to realize Godwin's potential last year, but he still does not get a lot of credit around the league, and I think he is, in fact, a sleeper. Regardless, I like his potential for 2019, and I think he goes for over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. He is just 23 years old and could hypothetically have big years in 2019 and 2020 and hit free agency at just 25 years of age and become an extremely high-paid wide receiver. That's a topic for a different day though, and for now I think he becomes a player who has his first 1,000-yard season in 2019. The next player that I think accomplishes this feat is Jaguars wide receiver Dede Westbrook. Westbrook had 66 catches for 717 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2018, improving on a 27, 339, and 1 split in 2017. The quarterback play in Jacksonville should be improved, as they went out and signed former Super Bowl champion and MVP Nick Foles. I look for Westbrook to be more consistent in 2019 than he was in 2018, as he had 5 games last season with 25 receiving yards or less. Westbrook is a good player, and he was even a Heisman candidate his final year in college with former Oklahoma teammate Baker Mayfield, with Baker obviously going on to win the award. I want Dede to succeed as I do the Jaguars as a team, because let's be honest, aside from the 2017 run where they went to the AFC Championship game, this fan base has been through a lot. The Jaguars have just 2 seasons in the 2010s decade above 5 wins, so I genuinely would like to see them succeed. I do think Dede Westbrook plays a big part in this, as I think he has his first 1,000-yard season at the age of 25. The final player that I think that goes for over 1,000 yards for the first time in their career is Falcons' second-year receiver, Calvin Ridley. In his rookie season, Calvin impressed a lot of people as he had a stat line of 64 catches, 821 yards, and 10 touchdowns. While there is a possibility of a sophomore slump from the former first-round pick, I don't see it happening. A lot of players do not like being second options to other receivers on their team as it takes a toll on their ego, but Calvin is in a very good position with having Julio as the clear #1 option in Atlanta. Calvin tore apart the Saints last season as in only 2 games against them, he had 15 catches for 239 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's an insane stat line for any player to have against a division opponent, let alone a rookie. With the strides he made this offseason from year 1 to year 2, I am sure he will hit the 1,000-yard mark. There were 4 games alone last season where Calvin was targeted 4 times or less, and with a young player only improving, I am sure that will change it for Ridley in year 2. He played well against another division opponent in the Panthers as well, as in his rookie year he had 4 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown in one game against them, and 3 for 90 and a touchdown against them in the other. With those 2 teams equating to 25% of the Falcons' schedule, they better figure out how to stop him, or it could be a very long 5 to 6 seasons for the Panthers and Saints against Calvin Ridley, as Ridley already is 24 years old. The Bucs did a good job covering him, as in 2 games he had a total of 8 catches for 79 yards. However, I do look for him to get more against the Bucs this year, as I am not very impressed with their secondary and look for Ridley to thrive on that. Julio as well, for that matter. I think Calvin's stat line in 2019 will end up looking like 75 catches, 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns, and think he gets some Pro Bowl consideration from this type of season. If I had to pick one player of these 5 receivers that makes the Pro Bowl as a receiver, and not a kick returner, I would pick Tyler Lockett because he's the clear #1 in Seattle and get targets accordingly. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel as all support is greatly appreciated. Again, thank you for watching, and have a great day.